here from the Everything Saxophone podcast. We're at NAMM 2023, sponsored by Rovner Products, and I'm at the Fiberreed booth over here, if you can see that, Fiberreed, and I'm here with my friend Danny Hofmann. He's local to me. I've known him for a number of years, great player. Actually, we did a couple of rehearsals together a long time ago when I first moved out here.
Yes.
Yeah,
I remember that. We met in a band.
That's right.
Playing together the first time. Yep.
Yeah, great player, and so he is a representative for Fiberreed, so I wanted to have him on the podcast finally. Welcome, Dan.
Well, thank you, Donna. Appreciate it. Thanks
Cool.
for coming by and doing this. Yeah. We've been talking about it for a while.
Yes, and finally the noise has subsided a little bit, so I can actually hear you. So you know what I'd love, and I think the listeners would love this too. Can you talk about all the different models of Fiberreed and, the characteristics of the reed? I think people would really appreciate that.
Okay, let me see how concise I can be about that.
Okay.
We do have numerous different models. I think altogether 9 right now, and so we're going to be kind of reducing some of that. I'm going to rearrange these here so that they're all together, just because we have so many. So I guess I like to start in a kind of a historical way because it kind of makes sense. So the first reeds that Harry came up with are these all white ones, and they're called natural, which is a misnomer. And we have 2 different cuts of these: the natural and then the natural classic, and that's probably hard to see up there. The idea was to imitate the construction and the specifications for cane.
Got it.
So Harry figured out how to make some or found hollow fibers, because the fibers in cane are hollow. So he wanted to get some synthetic hollow fibers. He came up with this white stuff, which is actually a woven material, and then that's glued together with a foaming resin. And it creates a very rich sound that has the buzz. That's the one thing that I particularly like about it. It has the buzz that you get from cane reeds, right? So when I tried other synthetics and then I checked these out, I was like, wow, this actually sounds closest to a cane reed from the synthetics that I had tried. So this was a great idea and was quite successful. But then Harry is always working on new things and thinking about things. And he said, okay, well, let me try to put some carbon fiber layers in between the white layers of hollow fibers. So you might have seen this somewhere else. They're like layered black and white. The black layers are carbon fibers. And the carbon fiber is really tenacious, so it brings out a lot of the really high overtones, the high edge of the sound. So these reeds are tend to be brighter, edgier, and a lot of people like them when they have to play with amplified instruments and so on, and need the volume and be able to cut through. And again, we have a classic cut that's a little more thicker. So the classic cuts on both of these and over here, they tend to be they have more heart. And so they have more resistance and a little fuller tone, but they're also, they're a little harder to blow. The regular cuts, the regular cuts are more free blowing. So depending on what kind of mouthpiece you play and your embouchure and what kind of sound you want, people, it's kind of like the difference between roughly a blue box Van Doren and the V16s and the Javas and so on, which tend to be more free-blowing, they use them for jazz and pop, I guess.
Got it, yeah.
That's the idea.
Awesome. No, this is a great explanation. This is great.
Yeah, thank you. So I hope this is not taking too long.
No.
I'll try to cut it short.
No, this is awesome. Take your time.
Okay.
This is good.
So the next thing that Harry thought about was putting some natural fibers into the layers as the layers, and then topping it off with wood. So these are hemp models. Still have the hollow synthetic fibers, so you still get this characteristic sound of the Fiberreed, but they tend to be more earthy. I like to say their overtones are more evenly spread, so you get a really rich earthy tone it still cuts through in the altissimo. I got some smooth jazz guys that just love these,
Got it.
because they get their, I don't know, the triple, quadruple high A's and stuff that they like to go for.
Got it.
You still get that out of that. So, but overall, the hemp reed is more sort of rounded, full-bodied, earthy tone.
Got it. Okay.
And some cunts really prefer that. Now, I guess I should, while we're with these reeds, before I move to the other kind of reed that we use, we just came out.
Yes, this is
our newest thing. So after working with all these different materials, I think Harry kind of more and more realized, and people were telling him that the way the reed is cut really makes a big difference. So he got together with two different artists. The first one, because he was an endorser for Fiberreed for 20 years already.
Oh wow!
It's named after a guy named G-Sax, or calls himself G-Sax. Roland Graf from Switzerland, and so they worked together to really refine the heart, the way the heart is cut.
Got it.
Right, and made it to his specifications. So it has a characteristic. It's the same material as our regular carbons. It's the same material, but the cut is different, and it gives you a really different playing experience. I haven't tried them enough to give you exact characteristics, but generally, it's brighter, and it just gives you a better experience and tone, than these. Sometimes these can be a little, I don't know. They're great. They're all great.
Okay,
and then the other one.
Would you say
Yes.
with the G-Sax? So would you say that this is it's maybe brighter, but maybe there's a little bit more depth to the sound?
Yes, exactly, because it does have that heart again, which we're trying to get with the classic, but because the heart goes into the reed more, it really does give you a fuller tone without necessarily just increasing the resistance.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So they're a little easier playing, a little more free blowing, but still with a fuller tone.
Oh, okay, that's great.
So
to know.
thank you. That actually helped me clarify in my head a little bit, what the differences are. Because the other one that he did is with a classical professor from Portugal. His initials are RPL, Rodrigo Pires de Lima, and he's more of a classical player overall. He does everything, but so they worked for a long time together to really refine the cut on this one. And if you compare them here, let's hold them up together for a second. If you compare the cuts, I don't know, it's kind of hard to see, but the RPL goes a little further into the tip of the reed, but then the very tip is very thin.
Yeah.
So it works. It has a. I hate to generalize, but in classical music, you're generally looking for more of a pure tone.
Yes.
With less stuff around it, with less overtones or buzz and stuff. So that's the kind of the idea behind this one. It ended up working great for some of the jazz musicians that we know and so on. They love them too. So it's a lot of it is a matter of taste and how it connects with your mouthpiece.
Right. It's all about the setup and how everything's working with that.
Yeah. So
let me look at this closely.
It's really worth being able to try. If you have a mouthpiece that you love, try different reeds, so you see what actually works better. Because I have different mouthpieces and I end up using different reeds on them because the way the mouthpiece is shaped affects how the reed will work with it.
Got it. Now,
right?
you know what I was curious about too?
Yes.
So we're talking about the cuts and everything, the strengths. So if we can go over these for a second. Although, actually, did we cover the
we
carbon?
didn't finish these yet.
Let's finish these and then we'll talk about the strengths.
Strengths are really straightforward. I mean, it's just if you ever played Lavaz back in the day, or I think they actually still exist, don't they?
Yes.
They have soft, medium, hard, and hard. So just 5 strengths. And then, not sure why, but on these two, Harry decided to go with numbers.
Right, okay.
But still, it's they line up with the strengths. 1.5 is soft, 2 is medium soft, 2.5 medium, 3 is medium hard, and 3.5 is hard. For some of them, we even have an extra hard for these two. What was I was going to say about the strengths? Oh, the nice thing about these reeds, as opposed to some other synthetic reeds, is that you can actually work on them.
That's what I was going to ask.
So the strengths, other people have in between strengths. It really doesn't work well for these reeds because it's just so much work involved in making each reed. And then we don't, you can't sell all the in between strengths and so on. But you can work on these. Like if you've worked on cane reeds, you just sand them down near the tip a little bit, or if you've worked on cane reeds, you'll know what to do. If you haven't, then you can learn.
You can use Reed Geek or something like that.
Yeah. If you've done maybe other shows, and there's probably lots of tutorials out there about how to work on your reed. But the nice thing is you can work on them with a Reed Geek and sandpaper. You couldn't even clip them, but with clipping them, I generally advise not to, because if it does chip, you're out $30 or $40 depending on the reed.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. No, absolutely. So I interrupted. Yeah, let's get back to these.
So then at some point, Harry was playing. He's a chemical wizard, so to say. He works with epoxy and has a really deep understanding of how epoxies and different chemical plastics work. So he was working with one to make actually barrels for clarinets, and we were thinking mouthpieces maybe and so on.
Wow.
And then somebody suggested that he try making a reed out of it. So that's what he did. He came up with this design. So these are molded reeds. These are our carbon Onyx, and you see they're all black. And so they don't have any of the hollow fibers that the other ones do. They're just molded certain kind of plastic epoxy, and then they're fused with carbon fibers, tiny little carbon fibers. So that makes them black. I think, yeah. And these are the more free-blowing ones, the carbon Onyx, and then he came up and did another version of that and added some. So these are a little more brown. These are copper carbon classics. The color is a little more brown because there's copper in there. The material is basically the same, but the cut is very different. So you have more heart right here in the middle, and they're actually curved, so you can see they're not the straight cut as the other ones, which is part of these too. But this is just a stronger heart, so a little more oriented towards classical music. A
little more resistance.
More resistance, exactly. More resistance, slightly fuller tone, pure tone.
Got it. Okay.
We have them for all the saxophones and clarinet. So we have alto, tenor, soprano, baritone, and for the clarinet. And we even have a couple of one model is this original natural model we have for bass saxophone and contrabass clarinet.
Oh, how cool!
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
And for clarinet, also bass clarinet as well, or just clarinet?
Well, yes, except the bass clarinet really is we use a tenor reed.
Okay,
so
I was just thinking that.
Kind of cheating a little bit because the outside specs are the same. One of our projects in the coming years to really refine our clarinet reeds.
Interesting.
Make them really top notch, focusing more on the cut. And Harry's still working on new ways of making new materials. It's always something new.
Absolutely, for sure. Now, one thing I will tell you, because I know a lot of guys that do play the Fiberreeds, and you're one of them, and Craig Durst, who's local to me as well.
Yeah.
So you guys are always telling me that you play a lot. I know that. I see all your posts and all that kind of thing. Craig plays all the time. You can play on one reed for a full year, playing a lot, right? That's what I've heard. That's what he's told me. And the reed is great from day one till the end.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I usually like to change them. What happens with these usually is they kind of lose their vibrancy. They just lose a little bit of their spirit, in the sense they get a little dull. But they really don't give out on you, or sometimes they will split and crack a little bit. But I've actually had guys come up with me, like you said, like a year, down the road, and the top is kind of shredded. And they're like, "This is my favorite reed. I still play on this." It's great. I'm happy to hear it. It's not a very good business model, but I get customers, that call me 2 years later and say, I need a new reed. It depends on how much you play, and I always say it depends on how much time you spend in the altissimo, because I think the altissimo just stresses, the reed and the material more.
That is true, and I have students all over the world, and I was just telling this to you before we went live on the air, so to speak, but I have a student in Bangladesh, and there's no stores. There are no music stores, no repair shops, so he uses Fiberreeds because his reeds will last a full year. You know?
They don't, like people here in the desert, especially in California, Arizona and stuff, they love them because they don't dry out, especially if you're doubling. You can have your horn on the stand and pick it up, and it's there. You're not dealing with warped and broken reeds and dried out reeds and stuff.
Yeah.
So
that desert thing is real, folks.
Yeah.
Even in Los Angeles, man, sometimes we get up to 109 degrees. It's crazy.
And it's very dry. When the dry desert winds come, it'll wreak havoc on your cane reeds.
Absolutely,
sure.
and sometimes your horns too with those winds, because right now, like in Palm Springs, at 30, 40 per mile hour winds and stuff like that, it's just crazy. But listen, Danny, this was awesome. I'm so glad I finally. It's been difficult to interview him at NAMM only because everybody's at this booth trying out the reeds, and it's so noisy. So I caught a lull in the action, lull, and this was a great run through of the reeds.
Well, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy we finally connected, and thank you for coming by. Really appreciate it.